Jiraiya's demise is one of the saddest moments in the Naruto series, but it's also one of the most important moments. We get a lot of development for Naruto, Pain, the Akatsuki, and the progression of the series continues very well after his death. Of course, I'm not saying that his death scene or even the concept of Jiraiya dying is a bad thing in the story. It had to happen, it was the perfect way. But what if Jiraiya had survived and actually beat Pain in that day? What would have changed in the Naruto story? Well, let's explore this very concept in this video. The first thing we have to establish is how Jiraiya would have survived the fight against Pain and how he would have beaten him even. Which, to be fair, isn't something impossible for him to accomplish. If a couple of things had gone a little bit differently, maybe Jiraiya would have beaten Pain. Pain himself even states that, oh man, if Jiraiya knew our secret, we would be done. But he is kind of overestimating Jiraiya in that regard. I don't think Jiraiya would have been able to beat the Xis Paths together, and that's the main thing. He wouldn't have to if some stuff had gone differently. The first thing Jiraiya would have to do differently was to use his frog stomach to capture the 3 Pain bodies he defeated in the beginning of the fight. He was able to take out half of the Pain force with that frog genjutsu and the combos he implemented. And if he did the same to those 3 bodies as he did to the body later in the fight where he captured one, then Nagato wouldn't be able to resurrect those 3 bodies after he comes back to beat Jiraiya. So Jiraiya would only have to contend against 3 paths of pain because the animal path, the Preta path, and the human path would all be inside of the frog's belly. You could easily say Jiraiya would have done that because he would be suspicious because Nagato didn't look at all like any of those people, and yet they had the Rinnegan and they were Nagato for sure. So maybe Jiraiya would already be suspecting that maybe Nagato isn't within them anyway. So maybe I should just take those bodies with me just in case something happens. And that also takes me to my second point. If Jiraiya had suspicions about it and was more on guard, he wouldn't be caught off guard by the Asura path who blows one of his arms away. That was one big problem in that fight because as soon as Jiraiya loses an arm and a lot of blood, he gets pretty heavily nerfed and it's much more difficult to fight anyway. So in this scenario, Jiraiya would have captured the 3 bodies and wouldn't be caught off guard by the Asura path, meaning that Jiraiya would have to fight against the Asura path, the Naraka path, and the Diva path. Now, one could say this would be a much more difficult fight than the previous fight Jiraiya had to endure because the Diva path is obviously the strongest path. Also, the Asura path hits really hard and the Naraka path can bring them back if Jiraiya defeats them. However, Jiraiya won't have to fight against those very annoying endless summons, and he also won't have his ninjutsu completely countered by the Preta path who can absorb everything essentially. Furthermore, to facilitate Jiraiya's life here, the Diva path wouldn't be able to go all out. For one, he wouldn't use Chibaku Tensei whatsoever because he wouldn't want to destroy the Rain Village completely. He also wouldn't use very large-scale Shinra Tenseis for the very same reason. And to ascertain how Jiraiya would do against these 3 particular paths of pain, we can look at how Kakashi did against the Diva path and the Asura path. He almost defeated both of them. He managed to destroy the Asura path and the Diva path went unscathed, but he was almost able to destroy both of them. And sure, he had help from Choza and Choji, but Jiraiya would have help from Fukasaku and Shima, which are much better help than Choza and Choji. They can maintain his Sage mode for one, and they can also use very powerful jutsus. Jiraiya would be fighting against 3 paths, including the Naraka path here, but it's very much implied that in this point of the story, Jiraiya is still more powerful than Kakashi, so that probably makes up the difference. Jiraiya could also summon other frogs like Gamabunta and all that. There's a really good chance Jiraiya beats every single path here. For sure, it would be very hard. Jiraiya would be very hurt and he would have to retreat back to the Leaf Village. He wouldn't be strong enough to pursue Nagato into the Rain Village like he probably would have wanted to do, but he would be able to come back with a lot of information. First, he would have dissected every single path of pain. If Kakashi was able to decipher Shinra Tensei and Bancho Tennin in 0.5 seconds when he fought against Pain, Jiraiya would do the same. Granted, Jiraiya isn't nearly as smart as Kakashi, but he is very wise, and he was able to figure out the powers of the 3 initial paths just fine. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do so for the other 3. He would also know that Nagato isn't within them, and so the entire village would know about that. Of course, that when Jiraiya returns to the Leaf Village, Tsunade will be very relieved that Jiraiya survived his very difficult mission, and when Naruto gets back and gets the information that Jiraiya fought against the leader of the Akatsuki and lived to tell the tale, he's gonna be very relieved but scared for Jiraiya's life. We're not gonna have the very sad Naruto scenes of him just crying because Jiraiya died, and that was a lot of character development, but this is a what-if story, so this wouldn't happen, at least not here. Now, instead of going by himself to Mount Myoboku to learn Sage Mode, Jiraiya would for sure go with Naruto to oversee the training and even help Fukasaku out. With Jiraiya's help, I see Naruto learning Sage Mode even quicker than he did in the original, but the rest of the Pain arc would remain the same. Pain would attack the village, probably with new bodies, and the invasion would honestly play out probably the same way, except that the Leaf Village would be trying to look for Nagato's location around the village, and maybe if they found Nagato beforehand, that would be easy, but because Nagato knew Jiraiya survived and probably figured that out, he would just leave Konan as a guard in there, so that even if the Leaf Village manages to locate him, she would be able to defend Nagato and do all that stuff. This would diminish their strength when attacking the village, but I don't really think Konan did all that much during the initial invasion. Things would happen pretty much the same way, except that when Shima summons everyone from Mount Myoboku, Jiraiya is with them, and so Naruto and Jiraiya would fight Pain in Sage Mode. This would just give them a massive advantage. Jiraiya knows every single ability Pain has, except for Chibaku Tensei, granted, and also the Rinnegan Tensei, but anyway, that doesn't really apply in battle. And Jiraiya is pretty powerful. With 2 powerful sages, Pain wouldn't be able to do much, honestly. Maybe he'll be able to hurt Naruto or Jiraiya, but he wouldn't do much more than that. Sage Mode Naruto managed to pressure Pain a lot. Only the Diva Path remained, and then Sage Mode Naruto was defeated. The Nine Tails had to come out and save Naruto, and then Minato had to come out and save Naruto from the Nine Tails, but in here, they would defeat Pain before all that. So the Nine Tails wouldn't even show up because Hinata wouldn't have to intervene, making Naruto angry because he watched her die. But just imagine seeing Jiraiya and Naruto fighting side by side as equals using Sage Mode would be really cool, and having Jiraiya acknowledge Naruto surpassing him with Sage Mode, that would be really cool as well. But still, this couldn't really happen in the series. It had to be the other way. But this is an interesting scenario to think about. Of course, that after they defeat the Paths of Pain, Naruto and Jiraiya would go to Nagato. And honestly, with Jiraiya there, it would be even easier for Naruto to talk no jutsu Nagato, prompting him to use the Rinnegan Tensei to resurrect everyone he killed during the attack. So things would remain kinda similar up until this point, except for the fact that Jiraiya is alive, which is a pretty big deal, don't get me wrong. But then things will definitely change here, because what happens next is Danzo becoming the 6th Hokage because Tsunade is in a coma because she used her 100 healings technique to save the entire village, and that drained her completely. In this scenario, however, I don't see them giving that to Danzo. I see them giving that to Jiraiya. They offered the Hokage position to Jiraiya in part 1 of the series before they even thought about Tsunade, and Jiraiya seems like a very good fit for the position here because he was also a pupil of the 3rd Hokage and Tsunade's teammate. Of course, Danzo would get pissed, but I don't see him really prying for becoming the Hokage here. He is much more of a manipulative guy. He doesn't really do things in an overt way. He would bide his time once again. And so, the 6th Hokage, Jiraiya, would have to go to the 5 Kage Summit instead of Danzo, of course. Who would he bring as his 2 bodyguards? That's a very good question, and I know the answer. It would be Yamato and Naruto. Remember that in the original, Naruto wanted to talk to the Raikage to plea for Sasuke's life. In this timeline, he would just tell Jiraiya that he wanted to do that, and he would say, oh, that's convenient because I'm just going to the 5 Kage Summit, so you can come with me and we can talk things over and try to sort out the Sasuke situation. Yamato would go with then, in case Naruto went ballistic for some reason with the Nine Tails' chakra, as per usual, and they would set out to the 5 Kage Summit. While this is happening, Sasuke was headed to the Leaf Village because, if you remember, he wanted to destroy the village at this point of the story. However, in the original, Obito arrives and tells Sasuke Danzo's actually going to the 5 Kage Summit and he is your #1 target, so you should go that way, and Sasuke agrees to do so. However, in this situation, Danzo would still be in the Leaf Village, and I can see Obito trying to persuade Sasuke to go to the 5 Kage Summit anyway because he wanted Sasuke to cause a big ruckus in the 5 Kage Summit to awaken his Mangekyo and also make sure the Kage are really scared and all that so that he can declare war and assert his dominance, or maybe even convince them to go forward with the Eye of the Moon plan, because Obito actually spells out the entire plan before he declares war because he wanted to see if the Kages would actually say, oh, okay, that's a good plan, which probably would never happen, but it doesn't cost you anything to try that. But really, he could have done that just by showing up anyway in the middle of the Kage Summit. It's not as though they could do anything. He is intangible, so the same thing would happen anyway. I don't see him fighting Sasuke and mandating him to go to the 5 Kage Summit here, because one of the main motivations for Obito telling Sasuke to go there was to further evolve his Mangekyo Sharingan, because he would have to fight against powerful opponents, and that's how you evolve the Mangekyo, by using it and getting more of that hatred. And he knew that if Danzo was there, that would prompt Sasuke hatred to rise, and therefore his Mangekyo would get more powerful. In this case, Danzo would be in the Leaf Village. He would just say, yeah, Sasuke, just go to the Leaf Village, have fun, and Team Taka would go towards the village. Moving back to Naruto and Jiraiya and Yamato in the 5 Kage Summit, the summit would probably go about the same way, except Jiraiya would definitely be much more positive about their situation because he is not Danzo, but he would also be serious about it and tell everyone that, yeah, the masked man is Madara Uchiha, we are kinda screwed, guys, what do we do? It would also be interesting to see Naruto in the bodyguard position because he would be kind of out of his element, to be sure, in that type of mission. The meaning would honestly come up to the same conclusion, that they have to unite in order to combat the Akatsuki, except that they would not distrust the Leaf Village so much because Jiraiya wouldn't try to Genjutsu Mifune in order to give him the rank of Supreme Leader of the Alliance, and because of that, he would actually get the rank of Supreme Leader of the Alliance because that was Mifune's intention anyway. He wanted to give it to the Leaf Village, and because Jiraiya wasn't a slimy guy like Danzo that's trying to pull off these things behind the scenes and manipulate everyone, then Jiraiya would become the Alliance's leader. Pretty cool. Naruto would have the exact same talk he had with the Raikage in the original, and the Raikage would vehemently deny him, just like in the original, because they don't see this changing whatsoever here. And then Obito would arrive and declare war pretty much the same way. When Naruto, Yamato, and Jiraiya are returning to the Leaf Village, Obito would once again appear to them and tell them about Itachi's truth and why he massacred the Uchiha clan just like he did to Naruto, Kakashi, and Yamato in the original. While this was happening, Sasuke was fighting the Raikage and all that. When Obito appears to tell them the truth about Itachi and why Sasuke has turned evil apparently, Sasuke would be invading the Leaf Village. Now this wouldn't be an invasion like Pain, where Pain jumped in the village and started to blow things up, because Sasuke couldn't really afford that. He had a 4-man team and he didn't have as much chakra as Nagato. So his infiltration would have to be covert, just like he did in the 5 Kage Summit. Now if you remember correctly, Zetsu came along the 5 Kage Summit and literally screamed, Sasuke's here, go find him, yada yada yada, because of course they wanted Sasuke's Mangekyo to develop, and if he fought a lot of Kage level opponents, that would be very good for his development. I'm not sure if Zetsu would do the same thing here, to be honest, because they are in the middle of a ninja village. There are way more opponents here than in the 5 Kage Summit, even though they had a lot of samurai that Sasuke just steamrolled over. Granted, there are no Kages present, but there are powerful ninjas nonetheless. Zetsu and Obito didn't want Sasuke to die, and that's why Obito saved Sasuke in the end when Inoki was about to kill him. But we can guess that Zetsu would probably not interfere because he would figure, yeah, he is gonna eventually get spotted when he begins to fight someone, and therefore he's actually gonna fight a lot of powerful people anyway. We don't have to interfere here. But I can see him being able to infiltrate the Leaf Village in the beginning at least. The Leaf Village is in shambles here. It was completely destroyed by Pain. It wouldn't be as well defended as it should, and Sasuke would also be somewhat familiar with the terrain around the village to get a very good place to infiltrate. They wouldn't be spotted in the beginning disappointing because, let's be real, if they weren't spotted in the 5 Kage Summit with the most powerful ninjas in the world present, they probably wouldn't be spotted in the Leaf Village either. They would transform themselves into someone else and just get in. The plan would be pretty much the same as it was in the 5 Kage Summit. Karin would first try to locate Danzo. And now that there's this possibility, the other elders, because let's be real, they would be really easy to kill. Sasuke would find them first with Karin's help and kill them pretty quickly. They are no longer ninjas, they can barely defend themselves, so it wouldn't be very hard, and I don't think Sasuke would even reveal his presence doing so. He would then locate Danzo, but that's when they would probably be spotted because Karin was reaching out too much with her tracing abilities. So Sasuke would engage the Root, Anbu, as well as Danzo with his team backing him up. And let's be honest here, Sasuke is fresh. Team Taka is fresh. They are very powerful. They were fighting the Raikage, and then Sasuke fought Gaara, and then Sasuke fought Mei. He literally fought every single Kage in the 5 Kage Summit, and then he fought Danzo to the death in the end. And now that Karin is actually more present here, she can actually kill Sasuke more. I can see them mowing down the Root Anbu pretty easily, especially because Suigetsu and Jugo are very powerful ninjas as well. Of course, Sasuke's Sharingan will begin to evolve as he fights Danzo, but there's one very interesting thing here. Danzo would have his Kodo Amatsukami charge, yet it wouldn't be very much of a problem, to be honest, because it was completely useless in the 5 Kage Summit. Ao realized Danzo was casting a genjutsu on Mifune with his Byakugan, and I don't see why Karin wouldn't be able to do the same here. Sure, she doesn't have a Byakugan, of course, but she'll be able to sense Danzo using that very powerful genjutsu chakra, and if Sasuke began to act strangely, she would just tell Sasuke, you're under a genjutsu, and then Sasuke would say, oh, that's true, I'm under a genjutsu. Guess I'm no longer under a genjutsu, because that's literally how Mifune was broken out of Kodo Matsukami. People say it's the most powerful genjutsu in the universe, but the only thing you have to do is tell the person, hey, you're under a genjutsu, snap out of it, and Mifune did so in the 5 Kage Summit, so Kodo Matsukami would be a non-issue here. Danzo would also die in this fight, but of course, after this, Team Taka and Sasuke would be very tired and out of chakra. They wouldn't really be able to destroy the village, and there's a big possibility that the other actors in the village would notice something is wrong because a battle is raging somewhere near the village, and so they would pursue. This would be a problem for Sasuke because obviously the Leaf Village is teeming with enemy shinobis. There are two in particular that would be very problematic for Sasuke: Kakashi and Might Guy, and also every single person from the Konoha 11 except for Naruto would be present as well. If they clashed against Sasuke, many Leaf ninjas would die, but I think Sasuke would want to retreat, and he would be able to do something similar to what he did in the 5 Kage Summit. He would leave his companions behind, not caring at all about them, and just getting the hell out of there. Now having killed Danzo and the 2 elders, and possibly many other Leaf ninjas as well. But also the Leaf Village has gained Jugo, Suigetsu, and Karin as prisoners instead of just Karin like in the original. If for some reason Sasuke is unable to escape, Tobi's gonna bail him out just like he did in the 5 Kage Summit when he was about to get atomized by Onoki. Tsunade wakes up, and then of course Jiraiya would immediately step down as Hokage because he really doesn't want to be the Hokage. He was just there because that was a necessity, and he didn't want Danzo to be the Hokage, and he was the best pick and all that. But still, Naruto and Sasuke didn't have that confrontation in the end of the 5 Kage Summit arc because they were not in the same place. Now, Tsunade waking up has some very interesting implications here. Remember that before Jiraiya left for the Rain Village, when he had a final talk with Tsunade in that bench in the Leaf Village during the sunset and all that, there was a bit of a romantic tension between them. Jiraiya even says, oh, I'm not mad for you rejecting me because rejection makes a man stronger, and I'm glad you did it to me. Not sure if I agree with him in this one, but that's okay. Regardless, I honestly kind of see them getting together here. Both of them very recently went near-death experiences, and they also were very afraid they would lose each other. Of course, that Jiraiya was in this position of being the Hokage while waiting for Tsunade to wake up. He would be very, very tense, not wanting her to die. And I see Tsunade developing feelings for Jiraiya before he left. And of course, you can say that it's because Jiraiya was an old friend. You know, if you read that scene, you'll get that vibe that they're kinda into each other. Especially, of course, Jiraiya's been into Tsunade forever, but maybe now Tsunade is also into Jiraiya. And yeah, they would probably just get together because they're gonna fight fight another war, maybe they're not gonna have this opportunity ever again. A very important question is, would Tsunade still be able to have children at 53? Usually that's tough to happen in the real world, but Tsunade is a Senju and an Uzumaki, so she probably has fortitude to have a kid in that age. If that's the case, they would have a kid. I don't see this as a very outrageous possibility, and if you tell me that there isn't enough time between them getting together and the war arc for them to have a kid, man, I think you're really underestimating Jiraiya here, because they would have a kid for sure if that was the case. Naruto would go train with B, just like in the original, because unfortunately Jiraiya cannot teach Naruto how to master the Nine Tails because he's not a Jinchuriki himself. He tried to do so in the past and failed, so getting a specialist would be definitely the best thing to do. And because Tsunade is pregnant, well, Jiraiya didn't really want to be the Hokage forever. He would much rather Tsunade be the Hokage, but Tsunade is pregnant, and so he has to step up to the mantle of 6th Hokage. He will protect Tsunade while she is at home having their kid, fighting the forces of evil to stop the perfect Tsukiyomi. Jiraiya would take Tsunade's role in the war arc. He would be in the plan room with Shikaku and the Raikage as well. He would confront Naruto and B when they escape the island with the Raikage, and ultimately they would let them go just like in the original, but now it would be Jiraiya seeing that, and that would be a very proud moment for Jiraiya, seeing Naruto having mastered the Nine Tails, the thing Minato, his other student, had left for him and had trusted that Naruto would be able to master it. It would be very emotional for Jiraiya. Now, there's also the chance that Jiraiya would have a much more active role in the war instead of Tsunade's role of just staying there and planning. Maybe he would go to the battlefield, use his summons, destroy a lot of white Zetsus, and also Edo Tenseis. But things would get intense when Madara arrives, and then the 5 Kage unite to fight against Madara Uchiha. In this case, it wouldn't be Tsunade, it would be Jiraiya, so that would probably be a very interesting fight, though I don't really see it going any differently. If anything, Tsunade was a better fit for the team because she could heal them. She was the only healer in the team. She could recover their chakra. Jiraiya wouldn't be able to do that. He would probably summon Ma and Pa to keep his Sage mode going during the fight, but Madara would still steamroll them just like he did in the original series. Unfortunately, there's nothing much we can do about it. And because Tsunade wasn't with them, this would be the death of Jiraiya. Remember that the 5 Kage only survived because first, Madara didn't bother to double tap them when they were down and just left the battlefield with them bleeding to death. And then Tsunade was miraculously able to wake up even though she had her body literally bisected in half and summoned Katsuyu to heal the Kage. Unfortunately, Jiraiya wouldn't be able to do that, and he would perish alongside the other Kage. Of course, upon getting this news, Naruto would be very disheartened, but this would work as fuel to motivate him. And now that the Nine Tails is his friend, things would go differently. He wouldn't rage like he probably would have in the past. He will use that to focus his strength and win the war. I mean, the rest of the war arc would continue the same way, essentially, because let's be real, the 5 Kage surviving had pretty much no implication to the rest of the war arc. The only Kage that was mildly useful after Madara's battle in the battlefield in the war arc was Gaara, because he brought Naruto to... Oh, now that I think about it, Gaara wouldn't be there. Gaara carried Naruto when he died from the Nine Tails' extraction, while Sakura was in his sand, using her hand to pump his heart. Gaara wouldn't be there, but Tsunade would, because even though she was not fighting in the war, when she sees things are getting really desperate, I mean, when she senses the chakra of the 10 Tails in the entire world, she would probably just rush to the battlefield and make sure Naruto wouldn't die. She would be able to maintain Naruto alive, carrying him through the battlefield, taking him back to Minato so Minato can put back the 9 Tails inside of Naruto, and then the story can continue the way it did in the original.
Or Madara just wins. GGWP.
Jiraiya would have had a kid. A kid that Naruto would obviously be the godfather of. Imagine a son of Jiraiya and Tsunade. That would be a pretty powerful shinobi, and honestly, Naruto would probably treat that kid as his own son. Kinda like how Shikamaru treats Asuma's kid. It would be interesting to see this kid grow with Naruto as the Hokage as well. It would be very cool. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like this video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. It really helps out, really. And thank you so much for watching.